it's basically completely silent.
The God of gods!
Okay, so what is up guys, welcome back to another video. In today's video, I want to talk to you guys about this single source COB light in front of me. This absolute unit, this absolute monster. This is the Golden Eagle LED 3000. Before this particular Golden Eagle 300 watt COB light came along, the cheapest 300 watt COB light that I knew of was the Godox VL 300. You know, the ones that helped everybody figure out that the Aperture 300D was just slightly overpriced. This one actually changes the game a little bit because this entire unit is being sold for just over $500. A 300 watt COB light with a TLCI of 99 and a CRI of 96 is being sold for $500 right now. So in this video, we want to take a look at all the things that this light actually brings to the table, the pros, the cons, and why you might want to consider getting a unit of this. So first things first, let's actually talk about the unboxing experience for this light. Now, one of the ways that they kept the price down was actually by giving you only the absolute necessary things that you need. So for example, you get the light itself, you're going to get a power cable that runs into the wall outlet. You're going to get like a reflector, which is actually very important in today's business. You're also going to get a remote and a pamphlet that tells you pretty much everything you need to know about operating this particular light. Now, moving on to the build quality of the light, it's mostly metal construction, which actually was very surprising to me at this price point. The body of the COB light is almost completely metal, and there are a few plastic accents. For example, this handle on the back is plastic, but everything else that I'm touching is actually completely metal, which is absolutely bonkers for 300 watt COB light at $500. Moving away from the build quality, let's actually talk about the remote control very quickly. Now, there are some great things with this remote control, and there's a few things to consider that are not so great. The first thing is the fact that the remote control doesn't have a screen on it. So even though I can actually use this to adjust the light, adjust the intensity of the light, you can't actually see what percentage of what number you're currently on. So that might actually end up being a problem for you, because by the time this light is up in the air pointing down, you're not going to be able to see the back of the light to actually tell what percentage you're actually on or what number or intensity you're currently on. But of course, it's always nice to have the dial and the power setting so you can turn on and turn off your light, and you can actually increase or reduce the intensity of the light. Now, moving on to the actual features and physical bits of the light, the power brick unit is actually built into the body of the light. So as you can imagine, this light does generate quite a little bit of it. Well, not a little bit, a lot. One of the consequences of this is the fact that by the time you turn this light on, the fan immediately comes on. That's not something that you notice with a lot of other lights. Many other lights probably wait a little bit before the fan kicks in, but because of the amount of heat this is going to generate, especially with the power brick being inside of the edge unit, it's going to generate way more heat, so the fan kicks in almost immediately. But I appreciate the fact that Golden Eagle actually understood that this fan noise being as loud as it is because of the size and the output of this light, you're actually going to need some way to operate this silently, because a lot of video makers, like myself sometimes, when you're shooting in certain situations, you want absolute complete silence. So they give you a silent mode. I'm turning the light backwards so it doesn't affect this video that we're shooting right now. So I'm gonna turn it on now. As you can see, the light is currently on. Now, the fan has basically just kicked in. So I'm gonna keep quiet for a little bit and hope that my microphone actually picks it up so you can hear what this fan actually sounds like. So that's the fan noise, and when I want to activate the silent mode, I just have to push the knob here one time and then it goes into silent mode. Now in this silent mode, it's basically completely silent. The only thing I can hear inside of this light now is some sort of electricity static, just so that you know that the light is actually on, but it's completely silent now. So I'm going to keep quiet now so that you can hear it. Absolute silence. Fantastic stuff. So when I turn it on and I turn it off, it goes back to the actual correct setting. Now, one of my favorite features about this light is the fact that it actually allows for fine adjustments. Yes, it's a 5600K daylight balance light, but when it comes to the light intensity, you can actually go all the way down to 1% and all the way up to 100%. And if you hold down the plus button on your remote, it actually racks up until it gets to 100%, and you can actually rack that right back down to 1%, which I think is fantastic. The fact that you can make fine adjustments like that. Now, one important thing that I feel like is worth noting about this light is that this is basically like having a supernova inside of your house or inside of your office or inside of your studio. It's like a star that's exploding. It is so bright that it's ridiculous. This is the brightest light that I've ever used in my life, and that's not me exaggerating or anything. This is brighter than the brightest light that I've ever personally used, and I used to think a lot of COB lights were bright, so this is absolutely ridiculous. Another thing that you should notice is that this light does not come with any sort of carrying bag or anything like that. So if you're somebody who likes to carry your light around for use in different places, you might just need to completely carry it with the box or find a completely different bag, because this does not come with a bag of its own. Now that might be a pro or a con for some people, but personally I don't mind it because I almost never take my lights away from my studio anyway. Now, speaking a little bit more about the physical bit for this light, I like the fact that the power cable is actually at the bottom of this light. So in many cases, if you're in the studio and somebody's leg actually pulls the cable, this just comes right off. It doesn't actually bend or damage the light, it just completely comes right off, which is great. Another thing that I really like about this light is going to be the adjustment knob. This is not one of those adjustment knobs that have teeth and yokes, so you have to put it in specific position. With this particular style, it can actually move completely freely throughout the entire axis, so you can tighten it in almost any position and it pretty much just stays there. Just make sure you tighten it very well so that it stays pretty much locked up the way that you want. Now, away from that, in the screw-on unit here, you actually have an umbrella port. So if you want to use an umbrella to actually soften the light that you get from this COB light, you can absolutely do that. I think for me personally, this light has pretty much become my favorite light so far. I've actually enjoyed using this a lot. Personally, I would grade this light a solid 8.5 out of 10, and the only reason why I'm giving it to 8.5 is because I wish the remote actually had a screen. That's pretty much the only con for me personally that's actually worth discussing. Now, this light looks like an absolute monster and it actually functions like an absolute monster. I have used a lot of smaller lights like the Godox SL60W, I have used the GVM 80W, and for the most part those lights work fine for talking at videos like this. There are circumstances though where they're not going to be bright enough. Like maybe when you're using a grid or when you're trying to shoot slow motion footage, you're going to need something a little brighter. In those type of situations, I have used things like the Godox SL150 Mark II, which is actually really decent. But this is significantly brighter than that, obviously. And it actually comes in at a price point that's fairly ridiculous. At $500, I don't think you're going to find any other 300 watt COB light that gives you what this light gives you with a silent mode and an actual remote control for you to control the light. So the facts are simple. The cheapest COB light at 300 watts that I knew before this one was $750. The cheapest one before that was almost twice the price of that one, which was absolutely ridiculous to me. The fact that a silent mode exists actually changes everything and makes this more palatable and more fun to actually consider for my video needs. What are my final thoughts about the Golden Eagle LED 3000? This COB light is absolutely fantastic. A bit ridiculous for the price because I don't understand how they were able to get this down to only $500. But if you're in the market for a COB light right now and you need something brighter than 150 watts or brighter than 200 watts, this is probably the only one worth considering, especially because of the price point. That is pretty much all my thoughts about the Golden Eagle LED 3000. Thank you so much for watching, and I guess I will see you on another video that was shot by Kagan. Peace.
The God of gods!